when I first bailed out, it was just like a battle of in wings, you know. The first talking picture of the first movie that ever had sound. You could hear those guns shooting, and you could hear stuff blowing up, and planes blowing up, and bomb bay doors come floating by, and oh, geez, it was, and to look at it, and you could see the fighters sailing in on these guys. It was just like the movies, better than the movies, probably, more realistic.
So, what things did you see? What specific images?
Well, everything happened so quick. It seemed to me that there had to be about 40 chutes in the air, and there was bedlam. But it gradually, as you went down, the battle faded away pretty quick. And pretty soon you could hardly hear it. And then when we got into the clouds, see, the clouds probably had tops about 6,000 feet. And by the time I got in the clouds, it was deadly silent. And then I started feeling jolts hitting the plane. There was one underneath the turret, and there was some in the left wing, and the next thing I knew, the left wing's on fire. About that time, this fighter plane came over the top of the plane. It couldn't have been, I'd say it was maybe 10 or 15 feet above us. That's how close he was. And I tried to get the turret trained on him, and nothing worked. The turret was just dead. So the only thing I could think of was that the hydraulics were shot.
What were you wearing?
We always had flak suits, but I never could wear a flak suit, especially in a turret. You couldn't get in a turret with a flak suit on the average guy. Maybe a little guy could, but I never wore a flak suit. I didn't even wear a flak helmet, but I was just in there with my uniform, my heated flying suit. This flying suit that I was wearing that day was a brand new model that the British had come up with, and it was kind of a tan, and instead of having a liner with little wires in it, the wires were in the jacket itself, which was sort of padded, and the pants, and of course you had their little boots that you wore underneath your regular flying boots, and it was a much more comfortable jacket, and it served as an outer piece of wear. The only thing that was bad about it was that I forgot my GI shoes. I should have had them with me because I lost my flying boots when I bailed out. They came right off and took off. And there I was in my stocking feet. To go back to when we were hit, shortly after that fighter plane went over, and I looked out and saw the wing on fire, and we started nosing down. And at the same time, I looked over towards the lead squadron, and I could see at least 2 planes flying along on fire. And finally, they dropped off. And one of them, I think, was the lead plane of the lead squadron. The lead squadron was actually the 700 squadron. The high right squadron, which we were in, was the 702nd. The high right was the 701st, and the low left was the 703rd. Now, what confused a lot of people later on trying to figure out who was leading that was the fact that Captain Chilton was a lead pilot, and the lead plane was from the 703rd. He'd borrowed the 703rd lead plane, one of them, to lead the group. And Major McCoy was flying in the co-pilot seat with Captain Chilton. And the deputy lead was Captain Webb Hubelhauer. He was also a radar plane. And in the co-pilot seat was Captain Graham, Jim Graham. There was another plane in the lead squadron that day. I think it was Houtman from the 703rd. See, evidently the 700 must have been down on planes or something, because there were 2 planes from the 703rd flying in the 700 squadron that day. And when we took off, there were supposed to be 39 planes to take off. Well, one of the planes, they ran off the runway and tore up a tire, and they couldn't take off because their tire was shot. What was the name of that plane? That was Schneider. And the 703rd, he aborted first because he tore a tire up and never got to take off.